Welcome to my channel, a place for film students and horror fans. Every week we'll be doing these psychological horror breakdowns where we analyze what makes iconic horror scenes so terrifying. We'll be looking at sound design, camera angles, lighting, character, psychology, everything that goes into making a scene in a movie so scary it keeps us up at night. And today, be looking at why this scene from The Silence of the Lambs is so incredibly scary without showing a single monster. Now, if you haven't seen The Silence of the Lambs, you've probably at least heard of it. And if you haven't heard of it, well, I don't know where you've been. It's one of the most acclaimed films ever made, with 34 Academy Award nominations and 5 wins. It's about an FBI trainee named Clarice Starling, who has to receive help from an imprisoned cannibalistic serial killer named Hannibal Lecter to catch another serial killer who skins his victims. That second serial killer being Buffalo Bill, who skins his victims because he wants to make a suit out of their skin. This movie is terrifying and disturbing, but that's not what we're focusing on today. There's one particular scene that I have always found so scary and unsettling. It's the scene where Clarice first meets Hannibal Lecter. Clarice is introduced to Hannibal in the beginning of the movie, and she walks down a long hallway to meet him. She walks through 2 doors before finally arriving at Hannibal's cell. Both of these doors are barred, and both of them have very heavy-duty locks. It's clear that there's no way that Clarice could get through these doors without help. But the thing is, she doesn't even try to open them. Instead, she just walks right up to the second door and waits. Then when Hannibal calls out to her, she simply opens the door and walks in like nothing at all. So let's analyze why this scene made you feel unsafe without showing a single monster. Let's get into it. The first thing I want to talk about is how suspenseful the scene is, which is due to the masterful editing by my favorite editor ever, Tanya Val. Before Clarice even arrives at the first door, we can already tell that she's not supposed to be going in there. She is wearing a very nice pantsuit, and the space she is walking into is clearly a jail cell. As she approaches the door, we see that it's locked and barred. She stops at the door, and we hear some noise from behind it. And then she walks away. She doesn't try to open it or anything like that. Instead, she continues down the hall until she sees another door. Again, this door is locked and barred, and she doesn't try to open it either. After waiting a moment, she once again continues down the hall until she reaches the final door, which is also locked and barred. Once again, she doesn't try to open it, and instead she just waits. This whole sequence is incredibly suspenseful, and you would think that there's no way that she could possibly get through any of these doors. And then suddenly, she does. After Hannibal speaks to her, the door opens and she walks through it. This is incredibly suspenseful, and we as an audience are kept guessing until the very end. Will Clarice be able to open the door? Or will she be trapped in this jail cell forever? Throughout this entire sequence, the only audio we hear is the original score by Howard Shore, which builds and builds throughout the sequence, until finally reaching a terrifying crescendo as Clarice enters Hannibal's cell. All of this suspense leads to an incredibly scary payoff. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the cinematography by Takao. Throughout the entire sequence, we see things from Clarice's point of view. We see the locked doors, the bars, and the other agents surrounding her. This makes us feel like we are Clarice, and that we are trapped in this jail cell with her. This is further emphasized by the fact that we never see Hannibal Lecter until the very end. All we hear is his voice saying, "Come in, Clarice!" This is such an unsettling line, and it is delivered by Anthony Hopkins with such menace that it is guaranteed to scare anyone. Finally, when Clarice enters the cell, we are given a wide-angle shot of the room. This allows us to see everything, including Hannibal in the corner of the frame. This is such a terrifying shot, and it perfectly encapsulates everything that makes this scene so scary. We are trapped in a tiny cell with Clarice and Hannibal Lecter. There is no escape. This is emphasized by the fact that the walls are closing in on her, and there is nowhere to hide. On top of that, Hannibal is sitting in the corner watching her like a predator watches its prey. This is such a powerful image, and it is guaranteed to stick with you long after you've seen the scene. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the sound design by Chris Carson, and how it brings all of these elements together. As we've already talked about, the score is an incredibly important part of this scene. It builds suspense and creates a sense of dread. But there's more to it than that. The score also creates a sense of unease and tension. Think about it. When Clarice enters the first room, we hear a loud bang followed by a low growl. This is meant to startle us and make us feel uneasy. It lets us know that something is not right in this room. This is further emphasized by the fact that we never see what made the noise. This creates a sense of mystery, and it makes us wonder what else is in this room with Clarice. The same thing happens in the second room. As Clarice approaches the door, we hear a loud bang followed by a low growl. This, again, startles us and makes us feel uneasy. It also creates a sense of anticipation. We are wondering what is going to happen next and what is behind that door. Finally, in the third room, we hear a loud bang followed by a low growl. This time, the growl is much louder and it's much more menacing. This is the climax of the scene, and it lets us know that we are in for something big. Overall, the sound design of this scene is masterful, and it creates an atmosphere of suspense, dread, unease, tension. All of these emotions build on top of each other, and they create a feeling of terror. By the time Clarice enters Hannibal's cell, we are terrified, and we are on the edge of our seats. In conclusion, this scene from The Silence of the Lambs is so terrifying because of the masterful editing, cinematography, and sound design. These three elements combine to create an atmosphere of suspense, dread, unease, and tension. They also create a feeling of terror. When Clarice enters Hannibal's cell, we are fully immersed in the scene, and we feel like we are trapped in a tiny cell with Hannibal. This is such a powerful experience, and it's guaranteed to stick with you long after you've seen the scene. So next time you're watching The Silence of the Lambs, pay close attention to the editing, cinematography, and sound design of this scene. You'll see that they are all working together to create a truly terrifying experience. And remember, sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones we can't see. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown. If you did, please be sure to support the channel. If you want to watch more of my breakdowns, you can check out my Patreon where I post extended breakdowns. And if you want to keep watching, I'd recommend checking out my video on why the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is still scary today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.